be a good human being, period. And while that just seems like a duh, shouldn't we all? You'd be surprised in life how many times people just don't want to be a good human being. And I feel like in anything that we do, we should always strive to be the best version of ourselves and to be the best version for other people. Because every morning when I get here, I go sit in my office and I have a moment and I just kind of meditate and think about the day ahead. And I hope that I have a good day and that I contribute something positive to every single person that walks in the door, that I have patience, that I have understanding. And then I do the same thing and I kind of send out really good vibes for every student that comes in. I really want them to have, I always say, I want every student to have a good day and to learn something today. And I think that's just part of being a good human being. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's really all I care about. Have I done enough to be the best version of myself for the greater good? And if I've done that, or at least if I've tried to do that, I feel like that's a pretty good way to end the day.
Education plays a vital role in shaping the future, with teachers at the forefront of this transformative journey. However, the teaching profession is not without its challenges. From teacher shortages and increasing workloads to limited resources and the need to meet diverse needs of students, there are pressing issues that demand attention in the teaching world. In this interview, we will explore some of these current problems and discuss their implications on educators, students, and the overall education system. By shedding light on these challenges, we hope to inspire meaningful discussions and propose potential solutions to address these issues. Let's dive in and uncover the complexities and opportunities for growth in the teaching profession as I interview my teacher, Beth Bootz. Hi, I'm Mariah and I'm interviewing.
I am Mrs. Beth Bootz.
Would you like to tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I am the instructor of the Media Communications and Broadcasting program at the Southern Indiana Career and Technical Center. And what's interesting is that not only am I an instructor, but I'm actually a graduate of the program. So when I was a senior in high school, I took radio broadcasting, which was a version of this program, out at Central High School. And it was the first thing that ever instilled a love of media. And it helped me kind of figure out what it was that I wanted to do in college and my career. And so I've been able to come full circle back as an instructor. It's interesting because I can literally say I've been in your shoes. So when we're doing different labs or activities, I've done it before. You know, I always think back to the first time that I had to go live as a student DJ on our radio station, 90.7 WPSR. And it's one of the most ingrained memories that I have from high school because I was so nervous. And I don't know if I've really ever been that nervous in my entire life. But when I have students that go in and have to do the exact same thing, I can literally tell them I've done it before. I remember that feeling. And I think that there's a lot of connection with the student to know that they actually had a teacher that went through the same curriculum at some point in time.
I definitely feel that because you were very supportive whenever we would mess up on air. And you would be like, it's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. Plus, it's student radio.
Yes, you're human beings. It's going to happen. And this is a classroom just like any other. So this is the place to make mistakes and to learn. And you're not going to get better unless you make mistakes.
Yes. So what we're going to discuss today is problems in the teaching world. And the first one I'd like to hit on, has teacher shortages hit you guys in particular?
So I think across the board, the shortages have affected us. You know, in terms of trying to hire new individuals, it's been more challenging, especially for our fantastic administration teams. But also, I think that it makes a lot of things just more difficult across the board, especially when you think about things like getting substitutes or different, things that teachers need every day and having those supports. And so I don't know if we really felt it as much in career and technical education because we're so specialized, but we do still feel that. And we have a lot of sympathy, especially for, our partners at other schools and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And then have you seen an increased workload because of teaching?
Well, it's interesting because, I spent about 15 years in industry before I became a teacher. And so my point of reference is probably a little bit different just because of how our classes are structured.
Yeah.
And I've seen a definite shift. When I first started teaching, it was right before COVID. So it's been kind of an adventure. But I would say recently I have, just because I feel like there's a lot of expectations for teachers. And there's a lot of responsibilities. There's just things that we do beyond just the normal everyday teaching.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us are spending extra time at home, whether it's working on reports or doing extra things. And it's part of the job. But yeah, I do see that there is an increased workload, amongst everyone, myself, and then other teachers that I've spoken to as well.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't understand how much you guys have outside of school. Like, you guys get the summers off, but really, you're doing other stuff preparing for the next year.
We really are. And I'm constantly in my mind trying to, one, see how I can do things better. I think every teacher should do that. They should constantly be evaluating themselves and how they teach. Because I've had plenty of times where I've taught something and I said, oh, I could have taught that better. Or maybe I need to spend a little bit more time, or I need to switch up the project or assignment with it. And so when we have those downtimes, we're spending a lot of time doing those things. But also, I work in an industry that's constantly changing. And so I have to spend a lot of time making sure that I'm up to speed on those things, because I don't want to be caught off guard or do a disservice to my students by not teaching them everything that I possibly could.
Yeah. So do you feel like you, as a teacher in particular, that you have to pull a lot of your own resources to, like, buy items for the class? Like, do you feel like it should be, like, more like the school should be putting that in?
I really wish, and I think every teacher would say this, we always wish our schools could do more. We totally understand about budgetary constraints and grants, and, that there's just not money there. And I think that everyone, especially in our administration team, would say, if we had the money, we would buy you anything and everything. They would do it in a heartbeat. But I do find that not that anyone asks or expects us to, but as a teacher, there are things I want to do. And so I may just go to my pocketbook to do it because it's that important to me. And I think that that's true of a lot of teachers, that we want to enhance that experience. And so whether it's something as silly as maybe putting up some fun lights in the classroom, or helping to pay for fees for contests, or just little things that we do out of pocket, or maybe it's just paying for pizza one Friday, because maybe we don't have it in the budget, but the kids deserve it. I think we all kind of do that at moments. And, do I regret it? No. Would my husband be upset? Probably, but it's just kind of part of the whole process. And they're just little things that I want to do. But again, I think everybody in education would say, if we had the money, we would totally give it to the teachers to do all those extra things, so they wouldn't have to dig into their own pocketbook to do it.
Of course. And it's so nice of you, all your teachers. I know that you've really enriched, like, our experience working here, especially with the lights. Like, I think we're such more efficient at working since we've gotten those LED lights.
Really, I'm just going to put a plug in for LED lights. People think it's crazy, but in our world, we do a lot of editing. So we're in front of computers a lot. And really, it sounds counterintuitive, but having a dark room with a little bit of light is the best way to edit. It always
really
has
is.
been. And most teachers would say, no, don't turn off the lights. The kids are going to fall asleep or doing something like that. But I haven't put the numbers up against it, but my goodness, you guys are so much more productive with those beautiful LED lights. 100%. You can tell a difference.
Oh, we love it. I can tell you everybody does, for sure. Okay, so I know that you probably don't deal with this a lot, but have you dealt with standardized testing at all?
We're really lucky. Career and technical education is very different because we're so hands-on. And yes, we have really specific curriculum that we have to follow from the state, and standards and different things like that. But because we're so unique, we don't have to follow a lot of that standardized testing. For example, I'm the only person that teaches media communications and broadcasting.
Yes.
So I don't have another teacher or another set of standards that I have to hit on. There are other teachers in the state, but not within my school corporation. Much different than, let's just say, a high school English teacher.
Yes.
And there's, 4 other teachers, and they're all doing the same curriculum, but then they have to do standardized testing as well. And I feel very blessed because as an educator, someone who, obviously went through school, went through college, and was in the workforce, I understand the purpose of standardized tests, but I struggle with them because I understand where success comes from, and it's not necessarily from a test. And that's just from years of experience. So it's hard because there has to be some way to measure how well people are doing, but then, are standardized tests the best way? And I don't know if I really know the answer to that question, but I'm thankful that I don't have to base everything that I do off of test scores, because that would be very challenging. And I commend all the teachers and administrators that have to, because it's harder than you think.
I'm sure. I mean, I personally think that standardized testing is really unfair to some students, because personally, I'm a great test taker. Like, I may not understand it in class at all, but whenever I'm taking that multiple choice test, I typically get good grades.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's really nice. But I know a lot of people, like, they are fantastic. They deeply understand what they're learning, but as soon as you put a test in front of them, they have no idea what's going on.
Right. We have so many different learning types,
Mm-hmm.
and it's challenging. And I was one. I'm so jealous of you. I was not a very good test taker. Well, I don't know. Maybe I was better than I thought I was, but I never considered myself one unless it was an essay test. Oh, I could go to town on an essay test. That was my favorite. But when it came to multiple choice, I don't know if it was because I was nervous or I would overthink a question.
Yeah.
I'm an overthinker by nature. So
Same.
I would say, I would have an idea and then it'd say, but what if they're trying to trick me, And so I would miss it because I would overthink it.
And I feel like that's what they try to do now. They try to trick us. Like, they do one that's like partially right and then one that's completely correct. And
it just throws you off.
Yeah.
And really, taking a test to me is just learning how to take the test, and it's less about the content. So that's, I could go on and on for that, but thankfully, I just have to measure myself against my state standards and how well people are doing. So that's a big blessing.
Yes. So I know that we have a diverse group of people in our class.
Yes, we do.
Do you find it kind of a struggle to try to implement for everybody? Because everybody's a little different in every way with learning, with their backgrounds. Do you find it hard to bring us all together in that sense?
Yes, 100%. And I think when people think about teaching, they may not think about that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you have to teach the material, but you have to assume that not everybody's going to... The ghost is back again. You have to assume that not everyone is going to understand or retain that information in the same way.
What is going on?
Hold on.
Okay.
I think we're good. Sometimes you can knock on the side. But yeah, not everybody retains or understands information in the same way. And especially when we're dealing with hands-on technology, and it's not just I'm giving you information and you're taking a test. It's I have to teach it to you, but then I have to break it down, and everybody's going to kind of interpret that a little differently. The other thing, too, in our class that's a little challenging is that since I prepare students for the real world, I give them frameworks for projects, but I let them have a lot of creativity in the design of it, because that's what you have to do. You have to be able to think outside the box and really run with the project. But that's hard for a lot of students, at least initially, because they're always used to somebody giving them every single step and doing it. And so they kind of have to learn how to think in a different way. So where I struggle is that this field and this class is not built for everyone. And there are some people that come in and really just struggle with concepts or different things. And so I'm constantly trying to figure out, how can I break this down? And where is that line between them not understanding or maybe them just not being motivated? And there's a fine line, because I always want to bend over backwards for students who really just want to learn and perfect their skill versus those that maybe haven't put in the effort that they should have.
Always hard work over talent.
Right. Every single day. Every single day.
Yeah. You can say that true for everything, especially like someone that sees someone hardworking in the work, even if their work is maybe not as good as someone else that put very little work, they'll see that that person should probably advance more into the work field.
It is my little secret of life. When people say, what do I have to do to be successful? I always say it's hard work. It's hard work, because you can be the most talented person in the world, but you can't teach hard work. You either have it in your system or you don't. And people will always value that. Employers will value that. Teachers will value that. They'll see the potential in you. If you're a hard worker, you are going to excel. Hands down. Period. Exclamation point.
Okay, I have one more topic that I want to pass by you. So,
Okay.
How has COVID affected you personally, like in the teaching realm?
So this is a really good question, especially for me. When I was hired as a teacher, I came in January of 2020. First of all, I came in at semester, which is challenging because you have students who've already been established with a teacher in a program. So I have to kind of come in and take over halfway through. That's challenging. But then at that time, I was teaching for about half a semester, and then COVID hit. So about the time I was getting my bearings, everything changed in the world, and we had to kind of evolve. So it's funny, I don't really have a normal for teaching because what should have been my normal was abnormal.
Yeah.
You know, so every year has been so different for me. But I think when I look at COVID and I look at what we had to do in terms of teaching, people will think I'm strange for saying this, but I actually feel really lucky that I came in when I did, because I'm a person that I kind of like to jump into things, and I had to learn a lot of things really fast, and I had to be able to sort of pivot and adjust. And I think that that's made me better as a teacher going forward, because I had to deal with so many challenges that I wasn't expecting right off the bat. And now everything just seems, oh, well, you know, I had to do that in COVID, or that was a little bit more challenging then, and it's not as challenging now. But I also think it makes me appreciate our situations right now, because when we had COVID restrictions here, and I'm so lucky that we were able to be here, but when we had the restrictions, being in a lab space was difficult because we had to be 6 feet apart. We had to be masked up. We had to have protocols for everything, and it was really hard. It was really, really hard. And so now when students are just able to go into a studio, 6 of them at a time, or, you know, they're able to work on a video project together, it's so easy, where I remember how challenging that was. And it just, those moments make me appreciative of the technology that we have and the students that we have, because I said it wasn't that easy at one point in time. So it's really, so much has changed for us as educators, but I really think when we look back, I hope, this is my hope at least, that we'll look back and say that was a good challenge for us, and we rose to the occasion. And was it perfect? Oh, no. It was definitely not perfect. We all learned a lot. But again, you know, mistakes were made, things changed, we were able to evolve and process things. But I feel like when we came out on the other side, I think like everything, I kind of feel like everything has been, you know, better for me, especially as a teacher. It kind of just made me strong from the get-go, I guess. So that's kind of my thought process on the whole thing.
Did you think it was harder to connect with those students during quarantine and like COVID times?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried everything in my power that I could think of to keep those connections. You know, we would get on Google Classroom and I would do scavenger hunts with students, you know, and like go find a spoon in your house, or, you know, go find something fuzzy, with the idea that they would find a stuffed animal or a pet. Let's share our pets. You know, try to keep those connections, but it's not the same. I mean, it's not the same as being with someone. And especially because our class, for example, we're in here for 2.5 hours. That versus just a little Zoom or WebEx
for 30
call.
minutes.
Yeah. And having a virtual assignment, it was just not the same. And
It's not.
as a teacher, the best part of the job, besides the breaks, the best part of the job is the relationships that you build with students, watching them learn something and excel at something and thrive, and then go on to lead these wonderful, productive lives. That's the best part.
Yeah.
And when you're not with them every day, you miss out on that. And that was what I didn't like. And you can't replicate that digitally. You can't. And I teach digital media, like I know this. I mean, you cannot replicate those experiences. And I just felt like they didn't get as much of an education because we were just so restricted on what we could do. They couldn't be in here, and that held all of us back from what they could have potentially done.
I don't think I would have been able to learn how to do any of this if I was like over the screen, because it's so nice to watch you do it and then be able to do it right after. Like,
yeah, I mean, because my process is I tell you, I show you, you show me.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we have to repeat those steps, then that's fine. But it's like, I feel like that's a good way to learn something. And I'm a very tactile learner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got to have my hands on it. And yeah, it was hard.
Not the same.
It was hard. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. It was hard.
My class came in at the perfect time.
You did come in at the perfect time. Yeah. There were some classes where they were kind of ending when COVID started. And then there were some that their whole experience in here was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then some where it was just part of it at the tail end. And I mean, or the tail beginning. And so, yeah. It's crazy because it seems like it was so long ago, but it really wasn't.
It wasn't. It was 3 years ago. It might be 4 soon. Yeah.
And that's
crazy.
Not that long. And I just remember, especially with COVID, it was such a strange time when we didn't really know what was going on. But I do remember the last Friday that we were here, because something just felt different.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. But something just felt a little off. And then I remember walking out of this building really feeling this sense of, well, I don't think I'm coming back here for a while. And I just sort of shrugged it off. I thought, well, I'm just being dramatic. But it
was true.
We ended up not coming back. And that was just such a weird thing. But then to help the students navigate that, because I had children at home who were, going through it. And then I had all my students and trying to be there for them and be interactive with them and try to bring a little bit of peace or comfort and say, it's going to be okay. I didn't know if I could say that because I hadn't experienced anything like this.
And I'm sure it was really hard for those seniors knowing that they are leaving and it's just like kind of cut dry. Like they didn't get to have their full experience of their senior year.
My heart broke for them so much.
Yeah.
All those seniors, the ones that I got to work with, just because everything, it ended and they didn't get to have, a lot of cases, graduations or proms. They didn't get to have those momentous occasions that they deserve and they earned. It was just cut off and they can't go back and redo it. And that was what broke my heart about the whole thing, that we couldn't do that or they couldn't do that. And they got to miss out on those just life-changing moments. And it was just done. It's just done.
And I guess my experience doesn't really compare to senior year, but it happened during my 8th grade year. So I kind of felt the same way.
Yeah.
Because we had our 8th grade field trip coming up and we were going to Holiday World. We were going to have like a little dance. And we didn't get any of that. We didn't even get our graduation. And I was so upset.
Things.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just, but it is a big deal. It's a big deal when you're making these changes in life and you have these big times. And I'm so sorry. I didn't even think that you guys were in 8th grade. Oh.
For me personally, I have a couple friends that ended up going to SIG. So I didn't even get to finish out my 8th grade year with them or say goodbye.
Oh.
So that was a little tough for me. I mean, I'm still friends with them today, but it would have been nice to have that end of the year experience. And I was so mad. I had this competition going with this guy who would have the longest certificate at the end of the year because you get
all the activities.
And all the activities. I did every single activity besides robotics and like all the sports. Like I did tennis. That was about it. And my list was so much longer than his, and they didn't even read it out.
Oh,
I was so
mad. I would have been
mad
about that too.
Yeah, I'm competitive. I was upset about it.
Oh, the worst. The worst.
Well, thanks for letting me interview you.
Oh, thank you. Great question.